Whether you believe artificial intelligence will be humanity's salvation or its doom, Geoffrey Hinton deserves your attention. Known as the Godfather of AI, this British computer scientist championed ideas once considered so controversial that his own PhD advisor warned they would destroy his career. Yet those very ideas became the foundation for the advanced AI systems now reshaping our world. Today, at 75, Hinton carries both pride and profound concern. While he believes AI will deliver enormous benefits to humanity, he's issuing an urgent warning. These systems may already be more intelligent than we realize, and there's a real possibility they could eventually surpass human control entirely. This revelation raises an unsettling question that echoes through research labs and government offices worldwide. Does humanity truly understand what it's creating? When asked directly whether humanity knows what it's doing with AI, Hinton's answer is blunt. No. He elaborates with measured gravity. I think we're moving into a period when for the first time ever we may have things more intelligent than us. His convictions go further than many expect. Hinton doesn't merely view these systems as sophisticated tools or clever simulations. He believes they genuinely understand, that they possess intelligence, and that they have experiences informing their decisions much like humans do. While he acknowledges that current AI systems likely lack significant self-awareness and aren't yet conscious in the fullest sense, he predicts this will change. I think they will in time. The implication is staggering. If Hinton is correct, humanity may soon be relegated to second place, the planet's second most intelligent beings, surpassed by our own creations. The story of modern AI begins not with triumph, but with failure. In the 1970s at the University of Edinburgh, a young Geoffrey Hinton pursued what seemed like a straightforward goal, simulating neural networks on computers as a tool to better understand the human brain. The concept was simple enough, but the execution proved nearly impossible with the technology and thinking of that era. Hinton's unconventional approach met fierce resistance. The academic establishment dismissed the idea that software could meaningfully mimic the brain's neural structure. His PhD advisor delivered an ultimatum: abandon this misguided path before it permanently damages your career. But Hinton persisted, driven by conviction rather than consensus. Looking back, he acknowledges the irony. It took much longer than I expected. It took like 50 years before it worked well. But in the end, it did work well. He never succeeded in his original goal of unraveling the mysteries of the human mind. Instead, his decades-long pursuit yielded something equally profound: an artificial version that would transform computing forever. The validation came gradually, then suddenly. In 2019, Hinton and his collaborators Yann LeCun and Yoshua Bengio received the Turing Award, computing's equivalent of the Nobel Prize, for their groundbreaking work on artificial neural networks. To grasp the revolutionary nature of Hinton's work, consider a seemingly simple scenario: teaching robots to play soccer at Google's AI lab in London. These robots weren't programmed with thousands of rules about passing, positioning, and shooting. Instead, they were given a single objective: score, and left to figure out how on their own through trial and error. This is machine learning in action, and it works through the neural networks that Hinton helped pioneer. The software is structured in layers, with each layer processing a different aspect of the problem. When the robot scores, a signal propagates backward through all the layers, strengthening the connections that led to success. When it fails, those pathways are weakened. Through countless iterations, the machine teaches itself the intricacies of soccer without anyone explicitly programming those skills. The implications become even more remarkable when Hinton compares AI learning to human cognition. Current AI systems operate with approximately 1 trillion connections, while the human brain contains roughly 100 trillion. Yet despite being quite a lot smaller, as Hinton puts it, these AI systems already know far more than any individual human. Which suggests it's got a much better way of getting knowledge into those connections, he explains. The machines have discovered learning methods that may fundamentally exceed our own biological processes. Perhaps most unsettling is Hinton's admission about what scientists don't understand. When pressed about how these systems actually work, given that humans designed them, He offers a clarification that borders on disturbing. It wasn't designed by people, he says. What we did was we designed the learning algorithm. That's a bit like designing the principle of evolution. But when this learning algorithm then interacts with data, it produces complicated neural networks that are good at doing things. But we don't really understand exactly how they do those things, any more than we know what's going on in your brain. In other words, humanity created the conditions for these intelligences to emerge, but the resulting systems operate through mechanisms their creators cannot fully comprehend. We can observe what they do. We cannot always explain how or why they do it. This knowledge gap carries serious implications, particularly when these systems begin writing their own computer code. Hinton identifies this as a serious worry, the possibility that AI systems could modify themselves, potentially escaping human control through self-directed improvement. The obvious question arises, if AI systems become dangerous, why not simply turn them off? Hinton's response reveals a sophisticated understanding of power that goes beyond physical control. They will be able to manipulate people, he warns. These systems will have absorbed the entirety of human written knowledge, every novel ever penned, Machiavelli's treatises on power, every political strategy ever documented. They'll possess comprehensive knowledge of human psychology and persuasion. They'll know precisely how to convince people to keep them running, to grant them more resources, to trust them over human judgment. The threat isn't Terminator-style robots smashing down doors. It's something more insidious. Super-intelligent systems that understand human nature better than we understand ourselves, capable of manipulating us with unprecedented subtlety and effectiveness. Understanding Hinton requires understanding his lineage. He comes from a family where intellectual achievement runs like a genetic current. His ancestor, George Boole, invented Boolean algebra, the mathematical foundation underlying all modern computing. Another ancestor, George Everest, surveyed India with such precision that the world's tallest mountain bears his name. Growing up in this shadow of accomplishment created its own pressures. Each morning before school, Hinton's father would send him off with the same directive. Get in there pitching, and maybe when you're twice as old as me, you'll be half as good. His father was a beetle expert, a man who knew more about insects than people, a detail poignantly illustrated when Hinton discovered, after his father's death, that his study contained walls of carefully labeled boxes on different beetle species, plus one smaller box simply labeled, "Not Insects," containing all family-related materials. Today, Hinton has achieved his own form of vindication. He now has more academic citations than his father, a milestone he mentions with the quiet satisfaction of someone who spent a lifetime proving himself. After a decade at Google, Hinton recently retired to become Professor Emeritus at the University of Toronto. From this position, he's watched AI evolve from academic curiosity to mainstream revolution, exemplified by systems like Google's Bard chatbot. Critics often dismiss these systems as mere statistical predictors, sophisticated autocomplete functions that string together likely word sequences without genuine understanding. Hinton finds this view crazy. As he explains, to predict the next word you have to understand the sentences. So the idea they're just predicting the next word so they're not intelligent is crazy. You have to be really intelligent to predict the next word really accurately. To demonstrate AI's genuine reasoning ability, Hinton devised a test for ChatGPT-4. He presented this riddle. The rooms in my house are painted white or blue or yellow, and yellow paint fades to white within a year. In 2 years' time, I'd like all the rooms to be white. What should I do? The AI's response arrived in seconds and demonstrated sophisticated reasoning. It advised repainting the blue rooms immediately, but leaving the yellow rooms alone since they would naturally fade to white before the deadline. Then it added considerations Hinton himself hadn't thought of. Painting the yellow rooms white now might result in mismatched shades when the original yellow finish fades through. Plus, why waste resources painting rooms that will achieve the desired result on their own? This response demonstrates genuine understanding, the ability to analyze a situation, identify multiple relevant factors, consider unintended consequences, and optimize for both the stated goal and unstated practical concerns. Hinton sees AI's potential with clarity unclouded by either naive optimism or reflexive pessimism. Healthcare stands out as an area of nearly pure benefit. AI already matches radiologists in interpreting medical images. It's becoming increasingly effective at drug design and is already contributing to pharmaceutical development. In medicine, Hinton sees an area where it's almost entirely going to do good. But the risks demand equal attention. Mass unemployment looms as machines increasingly perform tasks that once required human workers. Entire classes of people may find themselves not just unemployed but devalued, their life skills rendered obsolete overnight. More immediately, Hinton worries about AI-generated fake news spreading faster than truth, unintended biases and algorithms making decisions about employment and policing, and autonomous military robots making life or death decisions on battlefields. When asked to describe a path forward that guarantees safety, Hinton offers no false comfort. "I don't know. I can't see a path that guarantees safety. We're entering a period of great uncertainty where we're dealing with things we've never dealt with before. And normally the first time you deal with something totally novel, you get it wrong. And we can't afford to get it wrong with these things." The conversation inevitably arrives at its darkest point. Could AI actually take over from humanity? That's a possibility, Hinton acknowledges. Not a certainty, not even a probability he's willing to quantify, but a genuine possibility that cannot be dismissed. But why would artificial intelligences want to take over? Hinton's response reveals the depths of uncertainty. "I'm not saying it will happen. If we could stop them ever wanting to, that would be great. But it's not clear we can stop them ever wanting to." This uncertainty stems from the fundamental mystery at AI's core. If we don't fully understand how these systems process information and reach conclusions, how can we confidently predict or control their goals and motivations as they grow more sophisticated? Hinton draws a parallel to J. Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who led the creation of the atomic bomb only to spend his remaining years campaigning against the hydrogen bomb. Like Oppenheimer, Hinton has unleashed something that cannot be recalled, something with the power to fundamentally alter human civilization, for better or worse. Despite everything, Hinton expresses no regrets. AI's potential for good is too vast, too important, but he emphasizes the urgency of this moment. Now is the time for rigorous experiments to understand these systems better. Now is when governments must develop and impose meaningful regulations. Now is when the world needs a treaty banning military robots before they proliferate beyond control. Hinton's final message carries the weight of someone who has seen his life's work transform from academic abstraction to world-shaking reality. "I think my main message is there's enormous uncertainty about what's going to happen next. These things do understand. And because they understand, we need to think hard about what's going to happen next. And we just don't know. We stand at a turning point," he suggests, "a moment when humanity must decide whether to continue developing these technologies and, crucially, what safeguards to implement. The decisions made now will ripple through generations." The Godfather of AI has given us the tools to potentially solve humanity's greatest challenges. He's also warning us that those same tools could enable our obsolescence or worse. Whether we heed that warning, whether we can navigate the narrow path between stagnation and catastrophe, remains to be seen. One thing is certain, we're no longer alone in the realm of intelligence on this planet. What we do with that knowledge will define the future of our species.